Now I know. Now I know already. We see that red color live button means we are live. Don't wait for the loading screen. Yes.
Okay. Hi, we're live.
Awesome.
We're live.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Today is yet again our third live Saturday. Now we call it what? We haven't really picked a name yet, but as of now, it's gonna be called Saturday Night Live with JWA OST. Until we get a better name. All right. And today same thing. We have Jolene, we have Jocelyn, we have BB, and there's myself, Jason. And today our topic is what? Somebody.
Negative sales.
Yeah, negative sales. Negative sales and how it affects everybody.
All of
right?
us.
Yes, everybody, all of us, right? Because I think negative sales is a common topic that people don't really talk about until it affects them, right? Because it's something that is like most people don't really know about it, right? Or I mean, if I never talk about negative sale, I think a lot of my clients also don't really know. Oh, actually, they need to look into whether or not their house is in a negative sale, right? Anyone have any prior experiences of clients that had negative sales before?
Heard before,
Or your family, friends?
Heard before, but I haven't really personally encountered.
I see.
Yes.
That means you are very lucky, and your friends and family very lucky and very wise. Because why? They make all the decisions correct, and therefore negative sale doesn't affect them. Okay. Now, let me just share with you guys what a negative sale essentially is. A brief run through, very layman manner of explaining. Essentially, is that if as and when you sell your piece of property, doesn't matter if it's HDB or condominium, right? Essentially, you have usually like let's say you buy a property for like I don't know 500,000, right? Then when you sell the property, you want to sell for profit, correct? But there are times they're not all the time you manage to sell your property for a profit, and sometimes you end up selling your property at a loss. And therefore, that's essentially the most layman way of explaining what is negative sale. All right, maybe you buy a property for 500,000 and you end up selling it for 450,000, and that's a negative sale, okay, or otherwise called a loss. Now, but the thing is, today, right, I didn't really want to talk about loss because it's such an easy concept. You buy high, you sell low, means you lose money. But more importantly, right, how a lot of people are affected by negative sale. Sometimes, right, it may be you profit, right? But even though you profit, you end up having to top up your own cash into your CPF, right? So the same example, if let's say you buy a $500,000 flat, right? When you buy a $500,000 flat, sometimes people use cash, then sometimes people use, of course, you have to use cash at the start. Then after you use CPF, right? And some people actually have a lot of CPF, right? I've met a teacher, right? 43-year-old teacher that's a millionaire in CPF. Yeah.
Wow.
So you unmute yourself and you say, wow.
Wow. 老师赚很多钱。
Yeah, 是。And that's all because of investments in CPF. Basically, he put a lot, he invests in CPF. Every year, he also diligently put all the spare cash possible into your CPF. Now, the good thing is that if you put your cash in your CPF, right, you generate a 2.5% interest. Okay, and this one is government give you for free one, you know, just for saving and rewarding you with a 2.5% interest. This is a guaranteed interest by the government, right? Isn't it good? Now on top of that, right, if let's say you put it in a special account, you get 4%. That's even better, but that's a topic for another day. Okay, we talk about that another day. But more importantly, this 2.5%. As long as you put your cash or your CPF in the CPF account, right? You generate this 2.5% interest. And that can be quite a lot of compounded over the year. That's why you see this 43-year-old teacher can have $1 million in his CPF account, right? Now, so here's the thing. If let's say you keep it in, you generate the 2.5%, but what if you use it? Now, if you use it, whether you use it to buy shares or you buy property or anything of that sort, right? As long as you use your CPF, right? Now, number one, you lose that 2.5% from the 2.5% that the government give you for free, right? Now, beyond that, we actually have an accrued interest. That means to say, because you use it, therefore you have to pay yourself at 2.5% accrued interest. Now, and this, right, over many years, you will realize, right, that the accrued interest can add up to a lot of money. Okay? Am I clear?
Yes.
Right? Clear, right?
To give like the example, like how does if let's say I put my money into, like, for example, then I lose that accrued interest.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say let me switch on my calculator. Let's make it very simple. One moment, Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's do a raw calculation. Let me share my screen. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. It's just a simple calculator. Now, for those people who are actually viewing, I'm not sure how many people are viewing. Anybody? Right? Okay, so let's say you buy a property worth 500,000, and because you're one of those cash CPF rich individuals, and by the way, HDB will take, when you buy a HDB especially, right, they will choose to wipe out almost all your CPF, leaving behind up to 20,000. So let's say a typical 40+ years old person buy a house for 500,000. Maybe he has about 300,000 in his CPF OA account, which is, do you agree with me, it's quite possible?
Yeah.
Right? It's quite possible, right? Did the screen come up? My Facebook. Oh, sorry. Right? So 300,000, if you were to put it into the house, right? And over a period of, say, for example, let's say if any one of you listening, right, if you were to buy a HDB, roughly how long do you think you will want to stay in that HDB? Let's say a 5-room flat.
10 years.
10 years. Okay, so minimally 10 years. Now, the accrued interest, if let's say, let's put scenario one, you don't use your CPF. Okay, this 300,000 over the next 10 years, you just multiply by 1.025. Then you press equal, this is 1 year. Okay, then 10 years, maybe you say you will stay 10 years, right? So we plus another 9 years, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So effectively, right, by staying in this house for the next 10 years, your accrued interest, or rather your opportunity cost, will be 84,000. Assuming you don't put any more CPF inside. That means every month, right, you use your cash to pay. If you use more CPF, right, then you have even more accrued interest. But you see that this is your opportunity cost. That means if, let's say, you do not use your CPF, you use just cash to pay for your house, right, per monthly basis, and then CPF you use as little as possible, $84,000 is your opportunity cost. That means over the 10 years, government could have given you 84,000, but because you use your CPF, therefore you lose this. Now, on top of that, this same 84,000 is something that you have to find from either your own cash upon selling the house, right? Or if let's say your house makes profit, you got to take this 84,000 and put it back yourself. Right? Clear so far?
Yes.
Okay, so this means, right, that for a lot of people, right, sometimes maybe let's say they buy a property for 500,000, right? They bought this same example, 500,000. They bought in 2020, right? And 2030, 10 years later, they make 100,000 profit, right? For resale, actually is okay lah. I mean, it's decent, right? Especially resale, you don't know whether you're able to have a stronger chance of profiting or likely to stay stagnant, right? So let's say this person, right, buys at 500,000 and sells at 600. On paper, right, you actually make $100,000 profit. But because you have that 84,000, right? 84,000 of accrued interest, right? Plus, if let's say you to sell a $600,000 property, right? You probably require to sell for the best price possible. Definitely, you look for your favorite agents, your favorite realtors, right? Then a 600,000 property, 2% will cost you about 12,000, right? Plus 12,000. Then plus legal cost of roughly about 1,008. Can you see where I'm getting? Essentially, right, even though on paper, when you buy a property worth 500 and you manage to sell it for $100,000 profit, right? Essentially, this will all be eaten up by the accrued interest.
That's bad.
Right? So, I mean, because of this, it kind of makes it very, how to say, not very beneficial for people, you know? Yeah. So in that case, this means that for any of you that is listening in today, it's very, very important, right, that any property decision you make must be able to generate you at least a 2.5% increase per annum, or at least 5%. Because what you want to earn back your opportunity cost of 5%, the 2.5% per year, and on top of that, you need to ensure that your next the 2.5% that you actually use, right, you're actually able to sell it for a decent enough profit to pay off all this. Can you imagine if, let's say, there's some of my clients, right, actually bought on the market high in 2013. Then after that, they're trying to sell it now, and they are over the last 11 years and how many years? About 7, 8 years that they are staying in the house. They actually only can sell the same price as during that time. That means to say, for this group of sellers, right, they actually, in order to sell their flat, even though they are selling at the same price, they have to fork out the accrued interest. For them, they are quite lucky. The accrued interest is about 40,000. But still, it's still a lot of money. I mean, you have to find the 40 plus thousand to go and put it back into your CPF. Yeah. Okay. So I think it's very important for people, right, they're listening in today, right, to know. I think two types of people. Number one, figuring out how to actually find out what is your accrued interest. If let's say you have a flat so far, like today, right, you want to know how much accrued interest have you accrued over the past couple of years, right? And then decide whether or not should you kind of like restart that cycle, because the accrued interest is compounded now. So every year, whatever that you accrue, right, will just get compounded more and more. That's why you see the growth over here, right, in this part. You see the growth, every year it just keeps getting higher and faster. Yeah. Okay.
So in your this example, is for example, you are taking $300,000 loan and you're using pure CPF to pay off your mortgage, correct? For 10 years. Yeah, so in this example, is just 300,000 over 10 years.
Correct.
Dollars over 10 years.
That's
so
right. That's right.
If you bought a flat that is more expensive, say 800,000 or even 1 million, and you're using CPF to pay off your mortgage. And imagine it accumulates more than 10 years, let's say even 20 or 30 years.
And that's even more.
Yeah, can you imagine the amount? Definitely it's not $84,000.
Absolutely. Like even if let's say, I mean, nowadays we have a lot of $1 million flats. And a lot of people are buying into these $1 million flats, right? Thinking that, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna stay here, I'm probably gonna stay here forever, that kind of thing, right? And then you buy, let's say we have a person that spent $600,000 using CPF to pay. Can you imagine? Just all you have to do is to use this same formula. Whatever that you put inside your CPF, right, you multiply by 1.025. Then you multiply by number of years that you intend to stay. Let's say 15 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's like, how much is this?
268 long.
Minus 600,000. That's 268,000 of accrued interest over 15 years. Now, this is a problem. Now, I explained to you why this is a problem for a lot of people that don't like how to say, they don't know this concept. Now, the people that are buying properties nowadays, right, a lot of times, right, they intend to buy it and then leave it behind for their children, right? Because of forward planning, and because most of Singaporeans' assets, we are one of the largest savers in the world. And it's not because we have a culture of saving, It's actually we are forced to by this thing called CPF. Okay, so in a sense, it's a good thing. We are very good savers. But because of so much of savings, right, what they do is they pump in whatever CPF that they have and put it into the house, thinking that there's a couple of mistaken concepts and myths, by the way, that once you fully pay your house, accrued interest will no longer happen. That is absolutely not true. Your accrued interest will still continue carrying on. Now, here's the problem or the challenge that people will face. If, let's say, they were to put all their CPF into the house, right, and then accrue this 268,000. Now, imagine today, you inherit a house that is 800,000, right? But all this CPF amount, right, plus the accrued interest, right, is in a sense tagged to the house. The next generation, in order to sell the house, right, do you think it is easy to have a $268,000 cash, right, to come up with in order to sell the flat?
Definitely very hard unless they are.
Absolutely.
And this is, for example, only for 15 years. Can you imagine those inherited ones? The house is probably stayed
40 years already.
Yeah, I cannot imagine.
That's why it's like sometimes when you talk to such clients, then you tell them they are actually sitting on losses. Then they don't understand, or they cannot wrap around their head. For example, I bought at 500 but I sell 600, I make that 100K . So where did my loss come from? They don't see this part. Yeah. So it's to bring up this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's very important that we that's why the second part of this topic today is how does it affect you? Okay. The first group of people that affects is those people that already have a house. You have to go and think about how much property accrued interest have you been accruing. Okay. Then the second group of people, right, is those that haven't bought a house. Now these are the people, right, they are still quite safe because why? They haven't buy, right? So this is when you have to ensure that your next 5 to 15-year plan is quite carefully thought out so that you don't incur that kind of accrued interest, right? In a sense, if it was, to make it really simple, right? If you can use cash to pay for your house, right? Unless you are very certain that you have an investment opportunity or investment vehicle that can guarantee a consistent more than 2.5% interest every year consistently for the number of years that you want to stay in your house. And by the way, you cannot spend it. Like you have to consistently earn that 2.5% and prevent yourself from spending it. Because if let's say you earn 5% in a year or 10% in a year, and then you don't have the discipline to keep the money and you spend it, right? Now, then the CPF accrued interest will really affect you because you have already spent the money already. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So I think that these are the two groups of people that that it will really affect. Okay, cool.
Hey Jason, have we actually gone through how to calculate to see if we have gone into a negative sale?
Oh yeah, very simple. So a simple calculation would be whatever your house. Okay, actually, you know what? Let me share with you a file. Okay, for the people that are watching, if you like, you can write down in the comments below that you maybe I just share it first. Give me one moment while I open that file.
Just honestly, I've heard about accrued interest before I became an agent, but then I never really heard about negative sales before that. Then now I come across clients or friends who have an issue when they stay in their flats for many, many years already. Then they will be like, oh, what is negative sale? And I think a lot of people don't know. Right?
Exactly.
They know that their house, the value may be stagnant, but they don't know what it means to be negative sale, what it happens after they sell, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
I totally agree with Jocelyn. And I think the problem comes in is when maybe 20, 30 years down the road, okay, they finally decide that they want to sell their flat to downsize, or I don't know, for some reasons they want to cash out for retirement, but they realize that I can't exit this property,
Not even cash out.
not even cash out. Like, and people who never think, not that they never think that far ahead. Maybe they do, but they don't understand.
Maybe they're not aware. Yeah.
Then in the sense that they could have planned much earlier and prevented this from happening. Yeah. Which could have delayed their retirement plans, or even they have to save up even more to continue to pay their mortgage for some, if let's say their mortgage is still not fully paid yet. Yeah. And this amount actually snowballs over the years. So it's like, if you don't, like what you said, even if you pay off, you're still paying the accrued interest. But if you haven't paid off, it's still snowballing throughout the years. So yeah, that's the painful part.
Okay. Right. Can use. Oh, I haven't shared screen yet. Oops.
Not yet. Actually, I recently had heard of a friend's case that he is planning to move and sell his current place. Then he wanted to move to another area for convenience.
Right.
Then he realized that if he sells, then I think he thought that he would be making a profit. But then after he sells, then he do the calculation. Then he realized that he didn't run into negative sale, but there wouldn't be much left for him to, let's say, do a proper renovation in the next place he wants to go to, because there's not much cash left because of this accrued interest. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely understand. Okay, so I have this file here. They are called the essential elements of information. Now, for this example, right, I'm going to use the example that we have spoken about just now. For those that just tune in, I will just repeat this example again. So say, for example, a person that buys
because now we are seeing double page, do you want to enlarge it to a single page?
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Is it better?
I think you can make it a lot bigger.
Bigger, bigger, bigger. Okay, perfect. Now, is this better? Okay, huh? Can, right? Okay, so let's use myself for example, lah. Okay, but this is not as in use my name, lah. Not the property that I buy. Okay, so say for example, this person, right? He has bought a property for 500,000. Okay, and just now using the example that I explained, the selling price that this person wants to sell, right, is how much? 600,000. Okay, this 600,000. So let's assume that the 600,000 is sold already at that price. Okay, and of course with every property that you buy, for most people, unless you're like born with a golden or silver spoon, right, you will have a loan, right? And assuming a 500,000 property, maybe this person, because just now the example that we give, this person has 300,000 in CPF, so probably if 300,000 in CPF, he probably need maybe like $200,000 in loan. Okay, but maybe over 10 years he has paid majority of the loan already. Okay, so the leftover loan, let's say it's 100,000, for example. Do you think it's reasonable that over 10 years he pay $100,000, half of the loan amount? I think that's quite reasonable, right? Now, then because this person uses most of his CPF to go and pay for the house, therefore, ordinary account, right, is unlikely to have a lot of money, right? Because he every month use his CPF to pay, every month use CPF to pay, correct? So let's say he has $10,000, okay? Let's try to make it as realistic as possible. Now, and the amount that he used, because it's a $500,000 property, right? So, and then just now you mentioned he used $300,000 for your CPF, right? Okay, and the accrued interest over 10 years, just now we calculated.
Was it 84,000?
Yeah, it was 84,000, right?
I think so.
Hey, wait, no, it doesn't make sense. Because the loan, the person bought at 500,000. So the loan was 200,000. Correct? Sorry, 200,000. Does it make sense? Yeah. So the accrued interest, right, is 84,000. So now, based on the example that I gave just now, right, your cash proceeds for this person, right, is 16,000. But this is assuming the amount that he used, right, stays at 300,000. Because over the course of 10 years, right, he would have spent more money paying by CPF every month. So if assuming this person, instead of using only 300,000, over the 10 years, maybe he spent 50,000 extra on paying the monthly mortgage. This means that the used amount would have been about 350K. Does it make sense? Now, when this person uses that extra $50,000, right, his cash proceeds suddenly drops to a negative 34,000. Right? So when this happens, this means that even though you take your proposed sale price, minus away the loan that you have, right? Minus away your or rather you minus away that used amount as well as the accrued interest amount, right? Even though on paper you look like as if you make a profit of 100,000, but actually if you put in all the costs involved, this is haven't even count the agency fees, the legal fees, and whatnot, right? You become in a position of negative 34,000. And this is us being very, very conservative. We spend very little to pay for the loan, you know. And this is what happens still to people like that did not put this into consideration.
Yeah, lah.
Right.
So I think in layman terms, what this means is that if they sell the house, they have to top up this $34,000 back to their CPF.
Correct. That's right.
Cash.
That's right. In
Cash
cash.
put to CPF.
CPF plus if let's say they want to go and take take some money out to go and downsize or buy another unit, then they have to fork out extra cash. Okay, because this cash is already put inside. You get what I'm saying?
Correct. Because you got to return it, ma. Yeah. So that's why it's very important to know exactly where your cash position, your financial position is, right? So for those that are actually watching, right, if let's say this you find that this sharing is good, and you want us to share with you this file, right? Of course, we can send this to you. You can use this file to do your own calculations as well. Now, so this file enables you to identify how much cash position and how much CPF position you have, right? And use that to determine how much your next purchase price, next house will be. So I think it's quite useful for people that are thinking of upgrading from a HDB to a EC or to a HDB to a bigger HDB. Okay. Now, and importantly, some people actually think about how to upgrade or downgrade, right? So yeah, I have met clients, right, that actually make a profit, but when they want to downgrade to a new house, right, they end up might not be able to because they realize, right, that there's this 34,000 that they have to fork out extra of cash. End up, right, their initial plan that they have made maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago of buying a very big house. By the way, this is a challenge, a problem that we see quite often. A young couple buying the biggest house that they can possibly buy and stretching the limit, right? And using all the CPF that they can, thinking that, okay, let me stay in a five room flat, for example, right? Or an EA, a resale EA, very, very big house. Then after that, maybe 15, 20 years later, I can sell this house and then I downgrade into the size that I actually need, right? Like a 3 or 4 room flat, right? But because of this CPF accrued interest where you have to take out from your own cash, right? Suddenly the plan just crashed, you know? So I think it's very, very important for anyone that is watching, right, that when you purchase your house at different points of in time, right, you have to ensure that you're buying something that you need, not something that you want, right? Of course you can, but the thing is sometimes the ones doesn't really make sense. I give you an example. A young couple, right, that buys an executive apartment that has 4 bedrooms and a living room or 2 living rooms. You know, I actually have friends like that. It's quite, I don't understand. Because I'm not sure, Jolene, BB, Jocelyn, do you have you met, I'm sure you have clients, right, that actually have a 5-room apartment, but they only use 1 room, which is the master bedroom. And then they have a study room that is hardly used.
Yes.
And a
game room.
And then there's one more room, right? That's called the guest room. But no guests ever stay in their house one.
It becomes a storeroom.
Also storeroom.
It's also a storeroom. Now, you see, nowadays we're actually very educated. A lot of times, most people no longer makes decisions such as that. So I think why we do all these live videos, right, is to further elaborate and explain why is it important, right, to be very prudent in any of your property decisions.
You know what? The scary part is when we've reached the age where you want to retire, maybe like in your 60s, or let's say if you work even longer in your 70s. That's where the time when, if let's say if you really work so hard and try to earn money to pay off your house, only to find out that you cannot do anything about it. After when you feel like retiring, you want to upgrade or you want to downsize. And the thing is, if you have no cash saving, number one. Number two, you're at the age where you can't take a loan anymore. Because why? The loan tenure until 65 years old. Some you can stretch a bit, but that's if you are still working and you're still like healthily working and stuff. If not, you can't take another loan, okay? Even if you can, you still want to be paying off that loan at the age of 60 over years old. I don't want to just comfortably and retire in peace. After working for so long and so many years, definitely it's not what we want. So I think it's very important to plan way ahead, because when you reach that age, you know, when you start fretting and you realize that you cannot take on another loan, even if you want to try to downsize or upgrade or whatever the situation, then your money is stuck there. Then that's where the problem comes in. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely understand. Like I think we are talking about how to retiring with dignity, right? That's a topic that I think a lot of people we have been talking about this. It's a topic that I think we can dive really deep into. And it's important to plan your property decisions very carefully, because I think for the most of us, we don't really think about the property decisions that we make, and we just follow whatever that people say without making a very informed decision. And the reason is because a lot of us don't know what we don't know, right? Yeah, so I think it's very important to identify them. And because one more thing is, I mean, in Chinese we say 人生短短几十年 right? 有没有墨水？有哦，是不是？I mean, because you think about it, if you make a property decision at the age of 30, for example, if it's the correct one, your next 10 to 15 years will be very good. But if it happens to be a wrong one, right, the next 10 to 15 years, right, is not just spent on it's not just losing of opportunity cost, but repairing whatever decisions that you have made 10, 15 years later. And that's why all of us, right, in JWA Real Estate, right, we really pride ourselves on ensuring that the plans that we do help our clients with is carefully and very well thought out. Right? We think about what's going to happen to you in the next 5 years, what's going to happen to you in the next 10 or 15 years. And then we have that route map for you, so that you know that, okay, if let's say I'm a 25 or 28 years old, 30 years old young guy that really wants to invest, right? Okay, here's your route. Right, buy one. There is when is our exit strategy, right? When do we move forward to the next property, right? And then after that, at what age do we exit? Is today a good time, right? That's for a route that is for investment kind of guy, right? There are some people, right, that really loves, okay, all I want is my dream house, you know, and I want to live in a very nice place that I will stay forever, right? Then it becomes our prerogative to ensure, right, that at least whatever that you have today, in 10, 15 years time, you still have it or slightly more. Because some people, of course, we have clients that don't have that strong focus on using property to make money, right? Because myself, I have clients that say, hey, come on, my trading can make me a 50% in 2 weeks. You know, obviously property cannot do that for you lah, right? Property, it takes time, right? We hedge against inflation, and it's a safe bet for majority of people's money, right? Cool. All right, so we are 40, 43, 45, almost 45 minutes into the live session. All right, I think today we've covered quite a lot of topics. Right, so I think we is there any questions you guys have that you think we should address? No? All right, perfect. Now, if not, then I think that we should conclude today's live. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining and watching our Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Let's think of a name.
Yay.
Yeah. Let's think of a really cool name. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks. We have Jolene, Jocelyn, Libby, and myself. Right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I'm not supposed to leave the meeting, right? I'm supposed to switch it off.
Yes, we are still live. Excuse me.
Yes. We're still live.
Do you need tech support?
Now-
Tech support?
This is
Stop
a problem that
streaming.
this is